Thank you, Jacob sir, and the team for giving me an opportunity to talk. Actually, from morning onwards, I was wondering what I will be talking on sleep, like what I have prepared and the talks going on has been slightly different. So, pardon me. I prepared the talk in such a way that to convince you the importance of sleep and what sleep deprivation, sleep problems can do to your health. So I have included some part of fitness in that healthy sleep as well, but most of this deals with what is normally seen in our scenarios. So my outline of talk will be why sleep is important to us. Is rest and sleep the same? How sleep is important for optimizing health? How does sleep impact different body systems? Nervous system, cardiovascular system, metabolic system, and the reality of sleep in doctors, sleep in very fit and athletes, and conclusion. So coming to the sleep facts, we all know that previously we used to think that sleep is a waste of time. There are poems written about miles to go before I sleep and all. So but we now know that sleep is an active process. A lot of things happen in the body during sleep. 1/3 of our life spent sleeping, and the need of sleep varies with age. So when you are born, you need about 20 to 22 hours of sleep, and this decreases to about 7 to 9 hours of sleep by the time we become adults. And there is a genetic link to early versus late sleepers. And the physiologically, based on the EEG characteristics, we divide sleep into non-rapid eye movement and rapid eye movement sleep. And there are a lot of functions for sleep. The chief ones being restoration and repair of body tissues, especially brain. There is a lot of energy conservation akin to hibernation in animals. Then there is a memory consolidation which happens during the stage 3 NREM sleep, that is a slow wave sleep. Then there is a removal of toxic metabolites from the brain which happens during sleep. So before dealing with the different aspects of sleep, is sleep and rest same or different? Actually, the best way is to look at a dictionary to get a definition. So sleep, as we know, is a natural, reversible, periodic state of many living beings. By many living beings, we mean that we don't know whether plants sleep, but we know most of the animals sleep. So which is characterized by a loss of direct awareness or a partial loss of consciousness from one's surroundings and typical body postures, and during which a lot of physiological changes happen in your brain during that time. Whereas rest is a period of bodily state of minimal physical activity. So for all practical purposes, I will be talking about sleep in my lecture. So we know that we need about 7 to 8 hours of sleep, 7 to 9 hours of sleep per night for our optimum function. And short sleeping as well as long sleepers, both are associated with the health issues, with metabolic impact, cardiovascular effects. They are more prone for accidents, cognitive impairment, etc. So after the duration, the next comes the quality of sleep. So what do you mean by the quality of sleep? So this is something which is very elusive. When you look at questionnaires which look at your quality of life, health outcomes and all, most often there will be one single question which is asked about sleep. That is, how would you rate the quality of your sleep? So it is very difficult to give a yes or no answer to many of this situation. So we have multidimensional questionnaires available. One of the favorite ones is the Pittsburgh Sleep Quality Index, PSQI, and Medical Outcomes Study Sleep Scale. So these use many questions to look at the quality of sleep. So here you look at your sleep experience at night, reports of sleep disturbances, self-reported evaluation of sleep quality, then the bedroom environment, whether it is too hot, the noise from the bed partner, surrounding noise, whether you stay near a railway track, all these things may impact your sleep. And also they ask for questions to look at the sleep behavior during the day. So These are subjective measures that you gain from questionnaire. So what are the physiological correlates of sleep quality? So there are micro as well as macro measures of sleep architecture which can be used to measure the quality of sleep. Among the micro measures, most of these are based on EEG recordings. You look at a cyclic alternating pattern, then the percentage of slow wave sleep, which is believed to be the most resting phase in the sleep, then the percentage of REM sleep, then the delta power of EEG during slow wave sleep. And macro measures of sleep include the continuity of sleep or the level of fragmentation, the number of awakenings during night, and the total sleep time. But studies have shown that when you ask questionnaires regarding sleep quality and you objectively measure them with a polysomnography, there are often conflicting reports. So some studies show that the total sleep duration may be better indicator of a sleep quality, whereas measured by polysomnography, whereas some says that the stages of sleep, like especially N2 stages or N3 stages, may be indicative of sleep quality. So this is a study which looked at what sways people judgment to sleep quality. So they selected 50 good sleepers and 50 poor sleepers from their clinic, and they asked for their characteristics the day before, that is how was their level of activity the day before, the pre-sleep readiness to sleep, cognitive arousal when they went to sleep, and how did they feel during sleep, and also some questions about the waking factors, like were they feeling refreshed after waking up, and what was their alertness level and mood after waking up and all. So here you can find that the dark bar indicates the response of people who were reported good sleepers, whereas a light bar is a response of people who were poor sleepers. So the day before and the pre-sleep response did not significantly differ between the two groups. But when you look at the graph during sleep and upon awakening, there is a significant difference between the people with good sleep, reported good sleep, and poor sleep. So we know that not only the night factors but the daytime factors may also decide the quality of sleep as perceived by individual. So how sleep is important for disease prevention? Animal studies have shown that chronic sleep deprivation models have been studied extensively for looking at the pathophysiology. So it has an impact on cardiovascular system, nervous system, as well as metabolic system. So coming to humans, how does sleep affect each organ systems? We know that it has an effect on all organ systems, but I will focus on only mainly three, mainly nervous system, cardiovascular system, and metabolic system. So among sleep and nervous system, sleep and cognition is the most studied one, and they have a bidirectional link. So here we don't know which came first, whether it's cognitive disturbance precedes before or sleep disturbance came first, because many of the cognitive disorders like Alzheimer's disease have a sleep dysfunction many years preceding the symptom onset. Then there are well-defined ones like REM behavioral disorders, which can proceed 10 to 15 years earlier than development of synucleinopathies like Parkinson's disease. Sleep disorders like obstructive sleep apnea is a risk factor of stroke as well as recurrent strokes. Sleep and epilepsy have got a cause-effect relationship. There are some epilepsies which are triggered during sleep or during sleep deprivation, whereas epilepsy patients are more prone for sleep disorders. And there is a link between sleep, migraine, as well as immunological disorders. And many primary sleep disorders like insomnia and OSA have an increased risk of cognitive dysfunction. So coming to sleep and cardiovascular health, this is a survey done by the National Health Anti-Nutrition Examination in US. So they interviewed about more than 70,000 healthy adults without an obvious cardiovascular disease. And they tried to look at their sleep duration and the cardiovascular health. So they found that only in the it is a population level study. So they found that only 30% of population had been sleeping for the recommended duration the previous 1 month, and about 9% slept less than 6 hours chronically, and too long sleep duration was also seen in about 13.5%. And this study showed that both short sleepers as well as long sleepers were strongly associated with less ideal cardiovascular health. So both short sleep duration in insomnia, there is an increased propensity for developing hypertension. There is a 29% increased incidence of cardiovascular disease. There is an increased risk of obesity and metabolic syndrome in short sleepers. And also OSA, which is more well defined, there is an association with all cardiovascular illness, coronary disease, atrial fibrillation, as well as heart failure and hypertension. So this is why sleep disorders like OSA has come in the primary prevention guidelines of hypertension, stroke, as well as cardiovascular disease. Among the metabolic syndrome, the community level studies have also shown that poor sleep quality is associated with increased risk of metabolic syndrome. And looking at the sleep duration with the risk of metabolic syndrome, it is found that it has a U-shaped association with both long sleepers and short sleepers, both having a higher odds for developing metabolic syndrome. So now we will come to the reality among us doctors. So we know that this crowd, it may not be applicable to this crowd who are more into fitness, but the reality is that we have known that we are sitting ducks for coronary disease, and we hardly practice what we preach. So this is a study which most of you must be aware of. This was a study which was done by IMA Kerala chapter in 2007 and published in 2017. So they surveyed about 10,000 doctors from Kerala, 80% men, and they found that they followed them up for 10 years. So they found that 282 died in the 10 years. And the 1/4 of death were due to cardiovascular disease, and 1/4, 25% was due to cancer. And respondents mentioned stress an important reason contributing to early deaths, followed by lack of periodic checkups, and lack of control of risk factors as well as sleep disturbances are also listed as causes contributing to early death. And the study highlighted the fact that doctors tend to die earlier, at least 10 years earlier than the average lifespan of Kerala population. So, is it important for our health alone that we should sleep well? So, this is a case, at least some of you may be aware of this case, which changed the practice of medical residency in US, which happened in 1984, the Libby Zion case. So I will just briefly go through, because it is not truly related to health or fitness, but it is something that we as doctors should be aware of. Libby Zion was a freshman. She had been taking phenelzine for depression for a few months, and she had a history of cocaine abuse as well. She presented to New York University casualty with fever and earache. And she presented at night hours where there was no senior consultant, and 2 registrars were looking after her. So obviously the residents have continuous duty hours for 24 hours or 36 hours at a stretch. And the patient became agitated, and they gave this history of cocaine intake was not revealed to the casualty medical officer, and she was given opiate to control her agitation. And unfortunately, she developed serotonergic syndrome and died. So this led to a huge litigation, because her father was a lawyer, and also he was a New York Times correspondent. So this led to a huge litigation against a medical university. And the facts that the lawyer put forth was the chronically sleep deprived doctors were not in a real mind to judge the patient's condition, and that led to a medical error. But finally, it was the case was dismissed. It was not taken as a medical negligence. But the jury gave a instruction to the New York Health Department to formulate guidelines so that the sleep-related problems can be reduced. So fatigue among clinicians can affect patient safety. We know that in many other professions like nuclear power industry or transportation, this long hours of work is not at all permitted. And New York Health State Department, as a consequence, promulgated laws so that the resident work hours should be restricted to not more than 80 hours per week, and not more than 24 hours night shift should be permitted. So when we do continuous duties, it is not only the risk to the patient, but the health of the resident who is also at risk. And coming to the sleep in very fit athletes, even though because of the nature of their practice, sleep problems are also well reported in athletes related to training, competition, then sports discipline. And partial sleep deprivation before matches can impair the physical as well as cognitive performance. So there are some studies which I looked at interventions to improve sleep in athletes, whether it can impact the athletic performance. So they have explored different things like sleep hygiene, naps, sleep extension, light manipulation, etc. So they found that sleep extension and naps, power naps, were very useful tools to improve sleep and performance before athletic matches and all. Whereas mindfulness and light manipulation also demonstrated results. But in this review, they did not find that sleep hygiene or removing electronic devices had a significant impact on improving the sleep quality. So coming to sleep and diet, we know like many things about diet has been already discussed, and there's no need to repeat those. But Mediterranean diet has got good evidence for improving the quality of sleep and reducing sleep problems in all people, in healthy adults as well as in subjects with cardiovascular disease. Then coming to the role of physical activity on sleep, we know that physical activity is very effective and safe in not only normal population but also in people with cardiovascular disease and many other comorbidities. And even simple strategies like not as high intensity exercise, which was told before, but daily day-to-day activities with improving fitness still can improve the quality of sleep. So how to enhance your sleep quality? Like these are the common things that we explain to our patients. Sleep hygiene, even though the evidence regarding sleep hygiene may be lacking in many fronts, but still sleep hygiene is first and foremost the most important measure to improve your quality of sleep. Modest physical activity is very important because sedentary lifestyle can relate to sleep problems. Dietary interventions, especially improving the quality of food that you take with more vegetables and all. Then yoga, tai chi, then music and aromatherapy are other measures. If you search literature, you can find there are some evidence for improving quality of sleep. Mindfulness, which has already been discussed, and light therapy, especially people who find it difficult to wake up in the morning hours. Light therapy can help in resetting their circadian clock. So concluding, sleep duration, sleep along with nutrition and physical fitness are key health determinants, and I am not ignoring mental health. It's a fourth pillar. Sleep duration and quality both can impact physical and mental health, and we know that short sleepers and long sleepers as well as people with sleep disturbance are more prone for all types of illness, and we as medical professionals are not immune from these things. Many interventions are being tested with emerging evidence. Thank you.
Thank you. Entertain 2 questions.
Genetic mutations are described in short sleepers as well as circadian clock genes are there which can affect the early awakening versus late awakening.
Madam, in the morning we had about 6 to 8 hours sleep. You have stretched it to 7 to 9 hours. And in the schools, the teachers say to the students that you should sleep only for 5 hours.
6 to 8 hours as well as both are given in literature. So I think most of the study like US American Academy of Sleep Medicine recommends 7 to 8 hours sleep, which is ideal for healthy lifestyle. But there are some studies where they show that more than 9 hours sleep is harmful. So that is why I mentioned this 7 to 9 hours. So most of this, it is around 7 to 8 hours, or sometimes some show also 7 to 9 hours. And the second question I didn't get actually.
In the schools, most of the teachers ask the students to sleep only for 5 hours. What is your opinion?
In children, the duration of 5 hours is very inadequate. It is true that because of now with the change in the pattern, like people are sleeping late in the night and waking up slightly later. So in US and all, they have made it a norm to change, especially state of California and all, they have changed the school hours to late actually. Because previously it was like early to bed and early to rise, but now that trend is changing with the increasing use of gadgets and all, people are tend to sleep late. So some of the states in US have started making legislation so that the school timing can be changed to later than 8 or 9 like that.
Last one is intermittent prolonged sleep is good?
Sorry, I didn't get the question.
That on holidays you sleep for 10 hours or 11 hours. Is it good? Good.
To capture, correct on the sleep depth. So on long run, nobody knows the effect of catching up. But this is a very common practice. Like sleep depth is usually corrected over weekend. But whether that impacts your health on the long term, that no studies are there actually.
Ma'am, there are some reports about the back flicker of the mobiles and the TV to be switched off early before you go to sleep. Is it a fake thing or is it really true?
Light exposure definitely delays your sleep onset. So because of that, there is the melatonin release usually is delayed when you have increased exposure to light. So that is the physiology behind asking to avoid bright light exposure in the evening hours. So that's the reason why back flicker of mobile or other use of screen should be discouraged at least towards bedtime.
Thank you, Dr. Sapna. If there are no more questions, I'll ask Dr. Tony Thomas to present a memento to Dr. Sapna.